Have a good day to all viewers and listeners, most especially to the Sinakaban ALS learners. Welcome to ALS TV and Radio Eskwela. Today we are going to learn Learning Strand 1, English Communication Skills, with the learning competency distinguish whether a story is reality or fantasy. Episode number 8, titled Different Literacy Pieces of Fantasy and Reality. School learning level, advanced elementary and junior high school. Learners, are you ready? Before we will start, please be reminded that after this lesson, you are all expected to distinguish whether a story is reality or fantasy. Learners, get ready your modules and ballpens so that you can follow through. What are your favorite bedtime stories when you are young? Have you heard the stories about fairies, dwarfs, or giants? What do you call this kind of stories? Are these kind of stories are true or make-believe? That's right, it's fantasy. While reality is a situation that is true or an event that could really happen in our real life, the one that we are experiencing or facing involves our 5 senses in our body.
And now, let us watch different movie trailers and identify whether the story is reality or fantasy.
Excuse me, but I have to get through this labyrinth. Can you help me?
Labyrinth is a 1986 musical fantasy film directed by Jim Henson and stars David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly.
I'm a burger. Hobbit.
The Hobbit is a high fantasy adventure film series directed by Peter Jackson and stars...
Children now carry the AIDS virus. That in 3 years, nearly 2,000 of us will be dead.
Theorized to have spread from primates to humans sometime in the 20th century, there was a case of an HIV-infected human in the Congo in 1959. But it wasn't until the early 1980s that the disease was detected and named in the United States.
She is no schemer. She is good and kind and true.
Western Europe, spread north over to England, and then finally to Scandinavia.
Suspected by many to be a version of the bubonic plague that originated in infected rodents. This disease was most easily recognized by the tumors that covered victims' bodies. With so many dying so rapidly, bodies littered the streets as cemeteries were at capacity. While some governments attempted quarantines and some citizens turned to God for aid, there was very little that could be done to stop this infection.
Families were torn apart, villages deserted, business collapsed, states bankrupted by loss of taxes.
That doesn't even touch upon the horror of witnessing your loved one suffering or the fear that you might be next.
Agrees. The rash appears 3 to 5 days later.
Though it wasn't as deadly as Justinian, with only 2,000 dying in Rome per day at its pinnacle, and likely 5 million succumbing to the disease in total, the fact that it most probably claimed the lives of 2 Roman emperors, Lucius Verus and Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, served to plunge the land into fear and chaos.
Now, let us check your answer.
This group of stories belong to fantasy. Are these stories true or make-believe? How do you feel if you watched fantasy movies? Fantasy is a situation or event that is magical, make-believe, or could not really happen in real life. It's just a product of imagination. While this group of story belongs to reality. Reality is a situation or event that is real, could really happen in real life, or the one that we are facing or experiencing using our five senses in our body. Now, let's have practice. Stamp your feet once if it is fantasy, and stamp your feet twice if it is reality. Again, stamp your feet once if it is fantasy, and stamp your feet twice if it is reality. Number 1. An elk can help you make money. Is it fantasy or reality? That's right! It's fantasy. Number 2. The trees has branches. You've got it! It's reality.
Number 3.
People can fly. That's right! It's fantasy. Number 4. COVID-19 can kill thousands of people. Is it reality or fantasy? You've got it! It's reality. Number 5. Better met a wild animal in the woods. Correct! It's reality.
Again, how are you going to distinguish reality from fantasy?
Remember that reality is a situation that is true or an event that could really happen in real life, or the one that we are facing or experiencing using our five senses in our body. While fantasy is a situation or event that is not real, that is magical, makes believe, or the one that cannot be happening in real life. For your exercises, listen to or read each statement and determine whether it is fantasy or reality. In these exercises, your knowledge and skills will be measured in distinguishing fantasy or reality. And tell why you think so. If you encounter some difficulties in answering this module, do not hesitate to call your teacher. Basta sa ALS TV Eskwela, kaugmaon mo, kaugmaon ko. This is your teacher Agnes Pardillo Clapano of ALS Sinakaban saying, God bless and aim high Sinakaban.